What if Kakashi had the other Kamui eye? Okay, I get it, I'm supposed to be professional for YouTube or whatever, but I don't care. This is such an insane and interesting story. What if Kakashi had the other Kamui eye that Obito had? So, for those of you who are unaware, Kakashi Hatake possesses the left eye of Obito Uchiha, the Kamui eye, but not the close-up Kamui eye where he's able to affect himself and transport parts of himself into the Kamui dimension, making him basically intangible. Instead, he has the long-range Kamui eye, meaning he can teleport anything far away from him into the Kamui dimension, or anything outside of his personal being. The reason that Kakashi had a Mangekyo Sharingan despite being an Uchiha is because he was gifted with the 3-Tome Sharingan from his best friend Obito while he was seemingly on his deathbed. Obito gave Kakashi his eye as a gift, and because Kakashi had lost one of his own. But my thought is, what if Obito gave him his other eye? Meaning that Kakashi now has the much more powerful version of Kamui at his disposal. Well, that's what we're talking about today. And so now, without further ado, let's get into the story of this What If. Admittedly, not too much actually changes in the first bits of this story, as Obito would still be crushed by the rock, give Kakashi one of his eyes, and then be taken in by Madara, who would fix the other half of his body with Hashirama cells, and also a bit of Zetsu DNA, but more so Hashirama cells. This allowed him to heal on his own as well as have basically a new half of his body. He also got wood release, which is pretty cool. So nothing also changes with the red encounter, at least not really, because although Obito's eyes were definitely helpful in his fight against the Mist Ninja, they didn't actually secure him the victory. No, instead it was the fact that he had a Mangekyo, and he also had wood release, which is insanely overpowered. Now, our story actually really starts to diverge on the night of the Ninetales attack, because there wouldn't be a Ninetales attack. People immediately think that Obito just teleported into the room with Minato and Kushina. No, he had to bypass a legion of Ambunin, and he slaughtered each and every one of them, because they couldn't hit him. He was able to fight against Minato with Kamui, and Minato is lightning fast. Like, he is past light speed, which I guess are two different feats, but still, he's past light speed. At least, I'm pretty sure. And he was struggling to hit Obito. So, Obito was easily able to bypass all of the Ambunin, because he is post-Kage level. But then, Obito here, although being above Kage level, does not have the ability to become intangible. And so he cannot bypass all of the Anbu Ninja, at least not very easily. But let's give Obito the benefit of the doubt. He does have Mangekyo Sharingan, and he does have wood release, so he should be low to mid Kage range. I only say low to mid Kage range because Obito doesn't really have much outside of his hacks abilities, and here he has much less hacks. And so now, Obito, after bypassing all of the Anbu and getting in to the place where Kushina is being held for birth, I would say being suited or some nicer term, but no, she's kind of being held captive there, that way the Ninetales isn't released, but that aside, Obito would be able to grab Naruto, and basically just a streak of luck, Minato wouldn't be able to react fast enough to actually take Naruto and kill Obito, which he should realistically be able to do, but I'm taking strides so that this what-if can actually happen. Obito, now with the baby Naruto in his arms, would tell Minato to step away from Kushina and everything will go fine. Minato is currently making sure the seal does not immediately break because, well, Kushina's in a very vulnerable state, now seeing her baby in the hands of a man who's putting a knife to his throat, that's going to cause her to be pretty vulnerable. And so Minato, thinking fast, would try and reapply a weaker seal to Kushina to be able to maybe hold it, but instead Obito says if he does anything to prevent that seal from breaking, the baby dies. And so Minato would put his hands up and walk backwards a few steps, hoping that what he's done would be good enough. And then Obito would drop the kid and then jump in the air and use his Kamui eye, the one that is now ranged Kamui, to suck the Nine Tails out of Kushina into his Kamui dimension, and then he would run out of the room using the body flicker. And then while out amidst the village, jumping from rooftop to rooftop, he would then use his Kamui to bring the Nine Tails back out. Now, I'm not sure if this would actually kill Kushina, since it's a much less dangerous way of the Nine Tails being removed, but I'm just going to say she's still in critical condition because it adds drama to the situation. Back to Minato, he would take the baby Naruto in his arms and grab Kushina as well, then using Flying Raijin to teleport back to their home. And then he would place both his wife and his newborn child into a bed next to each other, saying that he'll be back soon, but there's something he needs to take care of, as blood-curdling screams would echo from all directions. Obito would quickly try and place a genjutsu on the Nine Tails, that way he can control it and make sure it causes as much damage as possible. But something Obito didn't account for is now he didn't really choose the location where the Nine Tails was being released. Instead, he just released it out in the open, summoning it in the middle of the village. This is not good for him, because that means not only are the Hyuga there to help, but the Uchiha clan are. They would be the first people on action, seeing everything going on, and Hiruzen would not be able to act fast enough, thinking that they were the people that actually released the Nine Tails. And if anything, Hiruzen would have seen Obito release it, so he wouldn't even stop the Uchiha if he wanted to, or if he could. And so, Obito, now, before being able to place the Nine Tails under Genjutsu, would be countered by multiple Uchiha clan members, as well as Hyuga clan members, trying to take him down as fast as possible, seeing him as the person who summoned the Nine Tails here. And then, the Nine Tails would be subdued by multiple different Uchiha clan members, and the leader, Fugaku, placing an especially powerful Genjutsu on the beast, that way it would be settled down. Fugaku would do this using his own Mangekyo Sharingan, the thing that gave him the moniker of Wicked Eye Fugaku. When Minato arrives on the scene, he would see Obito being taken care of by few Uchiha clan members as well as multiple different Hyuga clan members. The Nine Tails is being put under Genjutsu by Fugaku, who has a Mangekyo Sharingan of his own, and so Minato, he's debating what he should do to try and help the village. Should he step in and try and help defeat Tobi? Should he step in and try and steal the Nine Tails? Well, the Nine Tails is being taken care of, it's not causing too much damage, if any, and Tobi, well, he's being defeated rather easily, because he was already weakened, and now he is being approached by very powerful ninja from two of the strongest clans in all of Konoha. And so Minato, instead of focusing on being on the offensive, would instead try and find people who were hurt or damaged from the attack and bring them to hospitals, teleporting them with his Flying Raijin. Fugaku, using his Mangekyo, would then make sure that the Nine Tails is put to sleep rather than being conscious. That way it's easier to have him sealed away. Once Minato has gotten all of the hurt or injured people from the village to a hospital, he would then focus on trying to seal away the Nine Tails once again. By this time, Tobi has already been defeated. In fact, he's already unconscious and restrained. Now, with the Nine Tails having caused minimal damage, Obito being taken into custody, his mask removed, and being clearly shown as Obito, the day is pretty much saved. All Minato has to do is use the 8 trigram seal to seal the Nine Tails away. He would decide that the Nine Tails is too powerful to leave in one piece, and so instead, he would split it into 2. One half going to Kushina to make sure she stays alive, and the other half going into Kakashi. Now you might be wondering why I'm choosing Kakashi instead of someone like Naruto, who has Uzumaki chakra reserves and probably be able to take in the beast better. Well, Kakashi is a better host for the Nine Tails overall. Not only would it mean Kakashi has much more chakra, thus would be able to use his Sharingan whenever he needs, Kakashi would also be a much better vessel since he's already a prodigy, he's already older, and can already use the power from the Nine Tails as his own. Now, as much as Minato would want to seal away the bad half into somebody other than his wife, he would also recognize it'd probably be better to have the restrained and chained Kurama be the bad one. And so he would give Kakashi the good, the more peaceful half of Kurama that is actually willing to help out the people that he is sealed inside of, like Minato in the 4th Great Shinobi World War. This would mean Kakashi has Kamui, dang near infinite chakra reserves because of the Nine Tails, oh yeah, and a Jin cloak. Super awesome, overpowered Kakashi aside, it's time to talk about Obito. Obito, who would be arrested by the Uchiha police force, or I guess it's Konoha police force, but it's the Uchiha police force, and taken into custody. Minato would, of course, know it's Obito because they would take off the mask, and so Minato, he'd be confused, upset, and most of all, sorrowful. How could his own student do such a thing? Attack the Leaf, release the Nine Tails, in an attempt to commit very large terrorism. He tried to kill Naruto, or at least he threatened to do so, and he very well could have killed Kushina. Obito's response when Minato is laying out all of the horrible things he had done is just to say, "Wake up to reality, Sensei. The only things that truly exist in this world is suffering, pain, and futility. The older you get, the more you realize that there's nothing worth living for. So you might as well make a perfect world. A world full of dreams, a world where Rin didn't have to die, where our team didn't have to split up. As far as I'm concerned, Sensei, I died at Kanabi Bridge. I'm not Obito anymore. All I am now is Madara Uchiha." And then, Obito's left eye would open slightly more than it already was, him attempting to use Kamui on Minato to warp away his head as an instant kill. Although, what Obito hadn't realized is his Mangekyo were sealed away, or at least there was a seal stopping him from being able to use it. That way, his Mangekyo could not cause another Nine Tails attack, or, I don't know, warp through time. They didn't know what his Mangekyo were capable of, and so they were sealed off, turned off, unable to be used. The point is, Obito cannot escape from what Minato is about to tell him. You're right, Obito. The world is suffering. It is pain. There's even a bit of futility. You're right. But the world's not going to change unless we make it change. The world is not going to get any better if people are constantly out killing each other. I aim to make a world where there is no war. Friends are not torn apart because of death and conflict. I aim to see a world where Rin didn't have to die. Obito, if you had gone through with what you were planning tonight, if the Nine Tails was fully released and caused the damage you were hoping to cause, how many people do you think would have lost someone important to them? Gone through what you went through when you saw Rin die? How many people do you think would have lost a Rin out there in the village? How many people do you think would have gone through what you went through if you had killed thousands like you aimed to? You said you wanted to make a world of an infinite dream. A place where the world can be whatever you want it to be. Sure, that might sound good on paper, but it'd just be an illusion. Nothing would be real. The problem wouldn't be solved. Instead, we would just be ignoring it. I present a dream in which we actually change the world, and we change it for the better. We create a world where Rin didn't have to die. Sure, we can't bring her back, but maybe you didn't die at Kanavi Bridge. Maybe you can still be the next Hokage. Be my successor, be better than me, and change the world. But it's up to you. You can either chase a world of fake dreams, or you can change the world into one where nobody has to go through the same things you went through. What do you say? And Obito, with tears rolling down his face, would agree, as Minato would then wrap him into a quick embrace, cutting the ropes that had tied him up, as Obito would then return the hug.
I'm sorry about Lady Kushina and Naruto, and blaming all of this on you, and Kakashi.
It's okay. I forgive you, and I know Kushina does too. And I'm sure Kakashi will be overjoyed to have his friend back. Don't tell him I told you this, but he's been crying a lot since your and Ren's death. I think he really needs a friend.
And now the village would return to being probably the most powerful nation on the entire planet, seeing as they now have two different Ninetales Jinchurikis, one who'd be able to fully use the power of the Ninetales, and the other who, granted, can't really use the Ninetales' strength all that much, but is also a full-blooded Uzumaki, meaning they have insane chakra reserves, and can use adamantite chains. And if push comes to shove and she really needed to, she could also use the Reaper Death Seal, which might not kill her, seeing as she's an Uzumaki, and they invented the technique, and they also have insane lifespans, so really, she could use it multiple times and only have, 40 years taken off of her life, so she'll live to be as old as Minato? On top of that, they also have the 4th Hokage still alive, and Hiruzen, who is the 3rd Hokage, and I guess they still had him in the original, but he might be a little stronger here since he didn't have to go all out, and thus didn't have to expend so much energy, which, I don't know, probably shortened his lifespan. I really don't know with Hiruzen. Either way, they also have 2 Kamui users. One who has the weaker version of Kamui, which is long range, which is still basically an insta-kill move, which Obito can spam, by the way, because he has Hashirama cells, which also allow him to use wood release and regenerate as much as he wants. And then they also have Kakashi, who, base to base, is leagues ahead of Obito. And then Kakashi also has the ability to become intangible, with his own Mangekyo Sharingan, which you might think I'm not going to allow Kakashi to spam, but one of the reasons I gave him the Ninetales is so he could spam it, because the Ninetales not only allows Kakashi to have a lot of chakra, but also heal. He will be able to heal from any damage he takes, and that means his eyes will never go blind. So not only can he use Kamui as much as he wants, he will also never go blind from using it. He can also use the Jin Cloak, which took Iruka-level Naruto, not even kidding. In the beginning of Shippuden, Naruto was Iruka level, right? It was debated if he was actually surpassing Iruka right now. And then, a few arcs later, Naruto, who has only gotten stronger by learning the Rasen Shuriken, and yes, Sage Mode, but he couldn't stack it on top yet, now has the Jin Cloak, which allowed him to be Raikage level, or at least close to it. And so, that same difference, think about the difference between Iruka Sensei and the Raikage. And now add that same buff, that same multiplier, onto Kakashi. No, Kakashi is very powerful. And then you give him the ability to become intangible? This is stronger than Ten Tails Jinchuriki Obito. Sorry, I got a bit carried away there. The point is, Kakashi is now the strongest person on the planet without debate, and the other few strongest people on the planet are all in Konoha. The only person or people, I guess, that are comparable to the level of some of the weaker people in Konoha, well, weaker of the top tier, are B, Killer B, who has the 8 tails and is a perfect Jinchuriki, which I'm pretty sure he is right now, and then the 4th Raikage, or 5th Raikage, I'm not sure, what is A? Well, he's still the Raikage, and he's still very powerful. But, I mean, then again, Minato did solo the 2 of them. But, as much fun as I'm having power scaling, let's get to an actual story portion of the What If. Such as when Naruto grows up and becomes a Genin, alongside Sasuke and multiple other Uchiha. Sasuke'd be a happy-go-lucky kid, seeing as his clan would never be eradicated because, well, 1, they would never be discriminated against. The Nine Tails was very clearly caused by Obito, who, yes, is an Uchiha, but was not working with the clan directly. And then, Minato's still alive, meaning there is no way Danzo is going to orchestrate the Uchiha clan massacre. And so, there are multiple other Uchiha, as well as a happy-go-lucky Sasuke in the academy with Naruto. Naruto, who would still be top of his class. Well, I say still, only because there's other Uchiha there, not like he was in the original. But, yeah, no, Naruto is incredibly powerful here. He's a genius because he takes after his father, and his father was able to foster that genius into an insanely powerful shinobi. Even as a Genin, he is probably up to the rank of some higher level Chunin or Jonin. And then you also have Sasuke, who would be trained by Itachi and Fukaku and Shisui. Itachi, who I'm going to say is not sick here. Not even a little. Maybe like a cough here and there. But he's not sick, because he would not get the same virus he got while out on the run. 1, because it was a plot device meant to weaken Itachi, and I find it stupid. And secondly, because I firmly believe in canon, Itachi got this while out on Akatsuki missions. Possibly intentionally. That way, he would be able to be weak enough to die to Sasuke, but still be strong enough to where if Sasuke can kill him, he'll probably be able to kill most of anybody. And so, Itachi, no reason to do that here, since Sasuke is probably not going to kill him, and Itachi doesn't want him to. So, Itachi would never get sick, and you also have Shisui, who would never have his eyes taken. Maybe there was an attempt to, but if so, that means Danzo's deadzo, which I don't really care, because he's not going to be important later. So, Shisui and Itachi, 2 of the strongest people in all of Naruto, well, not comparable to like the Otsutsuki or whatever, but 2 of the strongest ninja in Naruto, are still in the leaf and training Sasuke, so Sasuke is also pretty overpowered. And then you have Sakura, who might not change a whole lot, but she's definitely a lot nicer to Naruto. In fact, I can see Sakura getting a slight crush on Naruto, and this would definitely be reciprocated. And so when Team 7 is formed under Obito, not Kakashi, because I feel like although Obito might actually be more into being an Anbu member and trying to help the world that way, I feel like Minato would want him to do something more lighthearted, and Kakashi has other things he can do, while still not being depressed. Kakashi could very well and good be the Hokage right now. Now, granted, he wouldn't be, since Minato is far better suited for the position, and Kakashi also doesn't want to be in the position, but if he did, he could very well and good take the position of Hokage. Now, again, I keep saying position, and I should probably say take the mantle of Hokage, but my brain's working a bit slow. We're like 25 minutes into the video, so just let me get away with this, okay? Back to Obito, he would be introducing his team to the idea of the bell test. Now, I could see him using the "you're going back to the academy if you fail" shtick, like Kakashi did, but I also don't feel like he would, since I feel like he would want to boost his team's spirit rather than shut them down, since Obito would still be a lovable goofball, the same one we saw before he became Toby, and kind of a nihilist sociopath. That's the word I'm going for. Yeah, no, Obito would definitely actually still be a lovable goofball. His personality is much better in this. Well, I still liked Obito originally. He's actually my favorite character, but I feel like Obito would just be more himself here. But how does the bell test actually go? Well, I see it going fantastically. Sakura, Sasuke, and Naruto probably have all grown up knowing each other and becoming pretty good friends. I see the dynamic going something like this. Sakura and Sasuke are best friends, don't really have a crush on either of them, neither of them really like each other like that, but they are still besties. And then Naruto and Sakura are possibly in a relationship, or at least they both have kind of a crush on each other, but maybe won't admit it. But if you saw either of them in the same room, you would instantly be able to catch on. And then Naruto and Sasuke's teamwork is probably the best out of the group, seeing as the two of them have grown up around each other since birth. Their parents were friends, and they were both sons of Hokage candidates. Granted, Naruto's dad is the person that actually was able to become the 4th Hokage, but Fugaku very well and good could have become the Hokage. In fact, it's debatable if without the prejudice of the Uchiha, he might have actually become Hokage. He had the Mangekyo Sharingan, which allowed him to have Susanoo, and, let's be real here, probably Amaterasu. I mean, both of his kids had it. He had to have had Amaterasu, unless you're telling me Mito had Amaterasu, and the two of them just got it from their mother. No, there was no confirmation that Mito ever had the Mangekyo Sharingan, and so Fugaku probably had Amaterasu. Okay, rant aside, the bell test goes phenomenally. Naruto and Sasuke working together with the assistance of Sakura, who, don't undermine her here. She would actually still be incredibly powerful. Well, in a certain sense. I feel like she'd be motivated by her teammates, and so she would actually become stronger than she was originally, and she was also an egghead in the good way, so I think she would probably be able to pull her weight here. And they'd be able to get the bells, although Naruto and Sasuke each get one. Well, what do they do with them? Although you might assume, especially if they were their original counterparts, they would just keep the bells for themselves, instead I see each of them offering their bell to Sakura, since they didn't want to have to choose between teammates. It just occurred to me that I said there wouldn't be any consequences for the bell test, so instead I'm going to say I was wrong, and that Obito actually said that whichever one didn't get the bell would just have to starve. And so Obito was forcing them into a position where one of them would have a negative consequence, and the other two would have to choose between something or another. Okay, I don't know what time it's going to be at this point in the video post-edits, but right now, it's at like 27 minutes and like 53 seconds. So, like, I'm gonna need you guys to cut me some slack. It's also like 9:30 at night, so like, maybe I can get a pass? The 3 Genin would then be accepted onto Team 7, as Obito would then have them do all sorts of odd jobs and small tasks while they're getting used to being Genin. Although Naruto is still a bit fed up with this, and even though Sasuke is more than okay with just saving small kittens from trees, Naruto wants something a bit more exciting. And so, he would beg the 4th Hokage to give him something more, something exciting. He would ask his father, again, probably begging, to give him something worthy of his stature, as the son of the 4th Hokage. Naruto wouldn't be like Boruto. He wouldn't be super stuck up, but he definitely would be very confident, and he very well should be. Naruto is very powerful here, and he is also pretty smart and an absolute prodigy. Now, the Land of Waves arc would still happen, but it doesn't really happen, because there would be no Zabuza. It's debatable if there would be a Haku in this situation, since he would still face prejudice because he is a Kekkei Genkai wielder, but I doubt he would exactly be interfering in this business. So, really, there is no big threat to the Land of Waves arc. If you're wondering why Zabuza and Haku wouldn't really be that main of players here, if any player at all, it's because the Blood Mist Village wouldn't be super bloody. Yagura, the Mizukage at the time of it becoming super bloody, or as bloody as it was, well, he was under Genjutsu because of Obito. Obito, who probably would never have went to the Land of Waves and put Yagura under Genjutsu here. So the Blood Mist Village isn't bloody at all. Okay, well, maybe a little, because they were still doing some pretty inhumane, operations before Obito, but they were on the path to fix that before Obito stepped in, trying to get revenge for Rin, which, yeah, he did. He did that in spades. So with very little involvement from Obito, the Blood Mist Village is just the Mist Village, except it has Kisame Hoshigaki, Zabuza Momochi, and Haku, last name unknown, in the village's borders, protecting the Mizukage, instead of the latter two of them on this mission as bounty hunters. And so the only real conflict here would be with the Demon Blood Brothers, and they were very easily taken care of in the original. It would just be easier here since our team is stronger and Obito is replacing Kakashi, this Obito being far stronger than that version of Kakashi. Although, the version of Kakashi we have here, well, that's a different story. The next big thing with the Land of Waves arc would probably be the ending where Zabuza shows up with, a few hundred men to try and take over the village once and for all and stop the bridge construction. But, and now hear me out, you remember what Obito did to those Mist Ninja after he first awakened his Mangekyo? Well, now imagine if that Obito had 20 plus years to refine that ability, and then did that same thing with weaker ninja. Yeah, no, Gato's men do not stand a chance. Next, we move on to the Chunin exams, which honestly go basically the exact same as in the original, except that Naruto has an easier time in the test area, or the test portion of the exam, because he would be big brain here, and in the Forest of Death, when fighting against Orochimaru, who would have been killed by Minato or Kakashi, but would have just slithered out of Anko, Naruto doesn't have the Nine Tails, which might seem like it's a bad thing, which I guess it is, but he doesn't really need it to be able to put up a better fight against Orochimaru than his original counterpart did. And Naruto would also be branded with the Curse Seal of Heaven. Now you might be wondering why Naruto would be branded instead of Sasuke. Well, that's because Naruto has Uzumaki chakra reserves and is also the son of the 4th Hokage. This is not only a power thing, as Orochimaru wants to show that he can do whatever the hell he wants, but he also wants Naruto's body because he is an incredibly powerful vessel. Now, Orochimaru might want Sasuke's body because it probably has incredibly powerful eyes, and like a dagger has been forged by master blacksmiths, Sasuke has been trained by Itachi Uchiha, Wicked Eye Fugaku, and Shisui of the Body Flicker. So yes, Sasuke is incredibly powerful, but Orochimaru already has a ton of Sharingan, and he'd rather not be on the bad side of the strongest clan in the world. And so Orochimaru would just kind of take Naruto and settle for that, and then slither away. Then on to the exhibition matches for the Chunin exams, the battle portion as I would like to call it. Absolutely nothing changes. Naruto would still win his fight against Kiba, and Sasuke would still win his fight against the random sound ninja I always forget the name of. And so, everything just kind of goes the same except easier. Then for the 1 month of training, we would see Sasuke training with Itachi and Shisui to better perfect his Sharingan abilities, as well as maybe training under Kakashi a bit, learning the Chidori as well as increasing his chakra reserves. Now, what about Naruto? Well, he would train under Jiraiya and Minato. He would master his Rasengan as well as train with his father, learning how to add a nature release to it, this being wind style, something Naruto has an affinity for. He would develop the Rasen Shuriken way earlier on, and also would probably learn Sage Mode from Jiraiya, seeing as Jiraiya would see the Curse Mark of Heaven planted on Naruto's neck, and would say that that's a grievous misuse of Sage Chakra. Frankly, it's disgusting, and Jiraiya would rather have him use Sage Mode than this knockoff, cheap, Walmart brand Sage Mode. Now moving on to the Konoha Not So Crush. As the second the Konoha Crush is attempted, it would be shut down. Fugaku can use Susanoo, Itachi probably can't use Susanoo, but has incredibly powerful Genjutsu, Ninjutsu, and Taijutsu abilities. Shisui can use Susanoo. Naruto has Sage Mode, and possibly can stack the curse mark on top of it, and is already an incredibly powerful shinobi. You have Kakashi, the strongest person on the entire planet who cannot be hit, and has a Gen Cloak. You have Obito, who has Hashirama cells, and a Mangekyo Sharingan that basically allows him to insta-kill anybody he wants with a snipe attack that no one can defend against. Yeah, no, Orochimaru's not doing too well. Honestly, Minato would just instantly wipe the floor with him and just kick him out of the village. Well, what about when Gaara just explodes into Shukaku? He's being just easily taken down by Kushina with her adamantite chains, and then subdued and probably imprisoned, where he would then be taken away by the Sand Village because they wouldn't want their Jinchuriki to be in the hands of Konoha. Oh, you want me to talk about the fights? Okay. Nothing changes except for Naruto and Sasuke. Sasuke easily wipes the floor with Gaara. Like, he would explode into Shukaku just because of how pissed he would be with how easily Sasuke is handling him. He would be trained by Shisui of the Body Flicker, someone with such speeds, he would be able to instantly assassinate the third Hokage, or at least kidnap him. Or at least that's what the Uchiha clan believed, and I honestly think he could do it. And then you also have Itachi, who would teach Sasuke how to use Genjutsu and Ninjutsu to such insane degrees, and Sasuke and Itachi are basically on an even playing field here when it comes to eyes, so Sasuke would probably be even better at Genjutsu than Itachi was in the original, because Itachi was relying on his Mangekyo to do it. This Itachi is leagues ahead of his original counterpart, except for the fact he can't use Tsukunomi, and Sasuke might actually be superior to original Itachi in terms of Genjutsu capability. And then you have his Ninjutsu, which would be, again, like a finely sharpened blade, carved by Fugaku, Shisui, and Itachi, and Kakashi, who, like I have said multiple times by this point, is the strongest person on the planet. Oh, but what about Naruto versus Neji? What do you think? What do you think? Neji is being absolutely cucked out here. What do you think Neji could do against this version of Naruto? Yes, 64 palms, incredibly powerful technique. Naruto has the Rasengan, the Rasen Shuriken. He can probably use Sage Mode, and if he really needed to, he could stack the Curse Mark on top of it. Now, yes, you could say he can't use Sage Mode in the Chunin exams. One filler arc said he couldn't, and the Curse Mark is also banned, and it's a Senjutsu, whatever. I don't care. Akamaru was allowed to fight with Kiba. That's cheating, if anything, so Naruto can use Sage Mode if he really wants. Neji is being dominated! Sorry, I got a little carried away there, but these fights would not be entertaining. Yes, maybe Neji could pull out a victory if he was able to quickly shut down all of Naruto's Tenketsu, but Naruto could just pull in Nature Chakra and instantly open him back up. And Gaara stands no chance against Sasuke. I can't think of any reason he would. Sasuke's Taijutsu is probably comparable to Lee. He has insane ninjutsu capabilities, even more insane genjutsu capabilities, and his speed would be on par with Lee in one of the 8 gates while not having weights on, which already tripped Gaara up in the original. The search for Tsunade arc would look much differently, as they aren't looking for Tsunade as a Hokage, since the 4th Hokage is still kicking, and kicking pretty strong, and the 3rd Hokage is still alive if Minato had died, which, again, he wouldn't have. And so Tsunade is actually just being recruited as a healer, as after the Konoha Crush, many people were left in critical condition, and the aid of a superior medical nin such as Tsunade would be very good for the village at this moment. And so Naruto and Jiraiya would approach her with the offer, and although she doesn't want to go at first, maybe it should be time for her to get back to what she was meant to do, helping people, healing them, saving lives. And so Tsunade would return with them to the village. There would be no confrontation with Orochimaru, as Orochimaru is currently dead. Well, kind of. He's going to slither out of one of the Sound Force curse marks eventually, but he just hasn't yet. Scratch that, he probably has, he just hasn't really gotten accustomed to his new body yet, and isn't really ready to launch any more strikes against, well, anybody really. Now, the Sasuke retrieval arc, on the other hand, is not going to happen for 3 reasons. A. Sasuke was not branded with the curse mark, that was Naruto. 2. Orochimaru is not in any condition to take in any pupils or kidnap anybody using the Sound 4. And D. Naruto has no reason to leave the village, and he was the one branded with the curse mark, so nobody's leaving to Orochimaru, thus nobody is going to need to be rescued. So logically, our next step would be going into the 2.5-year time skip, wherein Sakura would train not only under Lady Tsunade, but also under my guy alongside Rock Lee. Why would she do this? Well, for 2 reasons. 1, it's because Sakura needs to get stronger. I want her to be more important in the story. She was kind of useless in the original. And 2, because I feel like it'd be cool and it would make a lot of logical sense. Naruto and Sasuke would be growing at much faster rates, and to keep up with them, she would have to find another path to power. Her becoming a great medical nin and understanding how to control her chakra is great, but training under my guy alongside Rock Lee would arguably be better. And so, Sakura would actually learn not only how to manipulate her chakra into being very strong, but also being able to use the 8 gates, alongside her 100's healing, which is frankly a terrifying combo. On to Naruto, he would be learning how to better use Sage Mode, perfecting the technique, while also getting a handle on his chakra. He would train like Sakura in learning how to use his chakra not only to amplify his punches, but also to have better chakra control in general. Being able to precisely use his insane amounts of chakra would be very effective in battle. Now, what about Sasuke? What would Sasuke be doing? Since he isn't trained with Orochimaru, we're kind of just given a free pass to do whatever we want with him. And so he would continue training under Itachi and Shisui like normal, but he would also train more under Kakashi. Now, that might seem rather grounded, as Sasuke has already trained with these people before, but the part that lets it get a bit interesting is that Sasuke would join the Anbu in Team Ro under Kakashi Hatake, alongside his brother Itachi. Now, Itachi and Sasuke, like I said before, would each be much stronger than their original counterparts, Itachi included, even without his Mangekyo Sharingan, as now having to continue being a shinobi without his Mangekyo, he is pushed to continue training and getting stronger, alongside the fact that he isn't pushed out of his village, and thus would be more motivated to train and get stronger. And Sasuke, although not having his curse mark stage 2, or any of the techniques he would learned under Orochimaru, would still be much stronger, seeing as everything he learned under Orochimaru he could learn under Itachi, Shisui, or Kakashi. And although I did say that Itachi wouldn't have awakened his Mangekyo Sharingan, he might have actually done so by now. And I'm actually going to say he does so in this 2.5-year time skip. Same with Sasuke. It'd be much easier for Sasuke as he's more vulnerable, and thus, when one of his comrades, or probably even more than that, would die in the Anbu, he would be struck with an immense amount of grief, and thus would awaken his Mangekyo. And for Itachi, seeing his younger brother going through something as traumatic as that, as well as the loss of his comrades in the Anbu, would be able to push Itachi to awakening his own Mangekyo. And then, the two could just swap eyes, and they both have eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. This becomes pretty insane when you realize that means the 3 strongest people on the entire planet are on the same Anbu team. Kakashi, because he has the 9 tails, granted only half of it, but still, the strongest tailed beast excluding the 10 tails, at his disposal and full access to its power. He has the Jin Cloak and possibly even KCM2. He also has been training for years. Remember how Kakashi was incredibly powerful, world-renowned shinobi, well, he was rusty. Like, he didn't train. In fact, he got weaker before the Naruto series began. But then he continued training, he got out of his rut, and then he got stronger when going into Shippuden. Well, now, he would have never gone into a rut. In fact, his spirits would have been boosted, and he would have continued training this entire time. And he also has the Mangekyo Sharingan ability that allows him to become intangible, which alongside his KCM2 Chakra Cloak makes him stronger than Jubito. And honestly, he's stronger than Madara. Now, granted, Madara does have the Limbo clones, which might be able to help him get around Kakashi's intangibility for a bit, but how is Madara supposed to outlast Kakashi? As long as he is able to get a hand on Madara, he's sucked into the Kamui dimension and has no way of getting out. This would mean that Kakashi has enough time to plan and strategize on how to beat Madara, since at the end of the day, he's not going to die in the Kamui dimension, since he is immortal. Or I guess eternal might be a better word for it, since Madara can die, it's just he can't really die from natural causes since he's the Ten Tails Jinchuriki. That aside, all Kakashi would have to do is just learn Sage Mode, and then he can sense the Limbo clones, and he can no-diff Madara, because Madara couldn't hit him. So you might be wondering why I'm talking about hypothetical Ten Tails Madara versus this version of Kakashi. Well, it's because I'm bored. We don't really have much to do with Shippuden, and this seemed like a good way to waste some time for the Shippuden portion, since, well, spoiler alert, there's not going to be much of a Shippuden portion. So let's start off with the first part of Shippuden, being the Kazekage rescue mission, which would actually remain relatively unchanged for the setup. But after that, we do see some pretty clear differences. Well, not just yet. Actually, the team would be pretty much comprised of the same people: Sakura, Naruto, and Kakashi. Now, the reason it's Sakura, Naruto, and Kakashi is because Kakashi is a Jinchuriki and would want to go and save one of his fellow Jinchuriki, as well as investigating why the Akatsuki are after his fellow Jinchuriki, and Sakura and Naruto because Sakura is an incredible medical ninja who would be able to help try and overwhelm Sasori's poisons, almost forgot his name there for a second, and Naruto because he is being groomed to be the next Hokage, and so saving the Kazekage would be a pretty good look for him. And even though Naruto wouldn't have saved Gaara during the Konoha Crush arc, I still believe Gaara would become a good person. I don't know why, I just feel like he would still reform. He was a good person throughout most of Shippuden and Boruto, and I feel like after outgrowing the trauma he had in the original Naruto series, he could still become a good person and the kind of person who'd be able to lead the Shinobi Alliance. This will be somewhat important later. Now let's move on to the meat of this arc. Having Tsunade still being in the village and Sakura being more willing to train, she would actually become a much better medical nin than she was originally, being able to very easily cure Kankuro after finding out how Sasori's poison works. She'd be way more advanced and probably more akin to her Boruto level self. Remember, Sakura in Boruto had spent 10 years training her physical strength as well as medical capabilities. I'm saying she'd be that strong right now only because she would have stronger people around her, well, somewhat, to be able to actually push her to become more powerful herself. Sasuke would already have his Mangekyo Sharingan, and Naruto, well, he's just an incredibly powerful Uzumaki, having Uzumaki chakra reserves. Plus, Kakashi and Obito are so broken it hurts. Then we also have people like Minato and all of the other crazy powerful people that already exist in Konoha in the original series. Sakura would be pushed way harder here to be able to keep up with everybody. And so, Sakura herself would gain much more strength than she had originally. This isn't an echo effect, by the way. I'm currently in a hotel room and it has a bit of an echo. I hope you don't mind. The fight with Sasori and Deidara, well, isn't really much of a fight, seeing as the two of them are so incredibly weak in comparison to this team. Naruto already has Sage Mode and has been training for 3 years after that, as well as having trained his entire life under Minato and Kushina, as well as Jiraiya and other people in the village like Itachi, Shisui, and Sasuke. Now, granted, Naruto might not be training that much with Itachi and Shisui, but he very well could be, and enough to where it makes a difference. Plus, Naruto would be training basically his entire life with Sasuke, and now, for the past 3 years, that Sasuke has had a Mangekyo Sharingan. Naruto and Sasuke training with each other, both at mid to end of Shippuden level powers, well, they would get incredibly powerful. Honestly, this Naruto might be stronger than the Naruto we saw fight against Kaguya, which might sound absolutely absurd, but when you think about it, Naruto, after training, even for a few years, became so much more incredibly powerful. And then you take Sage Mode Naruto, which is probably where Naruto is at in this version of the Chunin exams, and then you give him like 3 years to train, that Naruto is going to become incredibly strong. Now, I'm not sure if he would exactly reach 6 pass levels, but it's not the most absurd thing to say, seeing as he already was the reincarnation of Indra, and never really trained all that much in the original series, because nobody ever really wanted to train with him. He never really had anybody to train with up until Team 7, and they mostly trained as a group, or went going out on missions. They didn't really have any physical training with each other, at least not that much. And so Naruto, after 3 years of intense training with Minato, Sasuke, Itachi, Jiraiya, all of these very powerful people, he would become a very powerful person himself, and I don't regret saying, possibly even up to the level of 6 pass Sage Mode. And then don't even get me started on Sakura, someone who would have been training for 3 years so intensely, I wouldn't see it as too big of a stretch to say she might be up to her Boruto level self, even with the 10-year time skip she had where she did intense training. That was, of course, very effective for her, but not to implement Dragon Ball laws onto a Naruto situation. But in Dragon Ball, we saw people like Krillin, Tien, Yamcha, people who were fodder compared to the beginning of Z Goku go up from, a power level of 200 up to 1,500. And those were some of the weaker ones. Piccolo was at a power level of maybe 400, and he went up to around 3,000. And they had no idea this level of power was even a possibility until they saw it with Raditz. But Piccolo and Goku had been training for 5 years before this and barely made any progress at all. Then you have Raditz step in and they train for a single year, and even the Earthlings are above Raditz? Doesn't make much sense. That's because people get stronger when they have higher motivations. Sakura would have higher motivations here, and thus she would train and become even stronger. And if that's not good enough explanation for you, Sakura would also have been training with Rock Lee and Might Guy, the 2 best taijutsu users in the entire verse. And then Sakura would also have the 8 gates to use in conjunction with her Hundred's Healing Seal. You take a Boruto level Sakura, activating her Hundred's Healing Seal, which would allow her to die 100 times over. And then you also give her the 8 gates. Well, to put it simply, Sasori and Deidara don't stand a chance against one of these people, let alone all 3 at the same time. Suffice to say, Gaara is brought back to the Sand Village, and Granny Chiyo doesn't have to give her life because they wouldn't even be able to begin the Tailed Beast extraction. And so, everything is hunky-dory, although before Sasori dies, he would tell them about the Tenchi Bridge mission, and they would go and easily kill Orochimaru. Now, I feel like Kabuto would be able to slither away because, much like Orochimaru, he is a snake, but also kind of a cockroach. After returning to Konoha, we would have the Akatsuki Suppression mission, wherein Kakuzu and Hidan would attempt to kill Team Asuma. But they wouldn't be able to do that because, with Minato as the Hokage, he would step in the second that he senses danger in his village, and be able to easily eliminate both Kakuzu and Hidan. Now, granted, Hidan would be an incredibly powerful person, and he can't really die, but Minato is also one of the smartest people in the entire series, and a hypothetical prime Minato would probably have a higher battle IQ than Shikamaru, at least right now, and so he would find a way to stop Hidan from being able to revive, or at least piece himself back together. And for Kakuzu, well, Minato, in his prime, would be so much stronger than the Naruto that developed the Rasen Shuriken, it frankly isn't even funny. And Minato would have also developed his own Rasen Shuriken by this point, and probably any other elemental release Rasengans. So, Kakuzu is deader than dead. Next up would be the Pain Assault arc, but quite frankly that just wouldn't happen. It's not like Nagato doesn't have a reason to send the 6 paths to Konoha, but he also has a reason not to, being that they would not be able to leave Konoha, and then they'd be able to be tracked back to Pain, or Nagato, and then Nagato would be in a lot of pain, until he wouldn't because he would die. And so instead, Nagato focuses on going to Kimogakure, or the village hidden in the clouds, and getting the 8 tails first, wherein he would also have the 6 paths lose, because, well, Killer Bee is incredibly powerful. And whether or not he'd be able to beat Pain on his own is somewhat debatable. I feel like a full power Killer Bee would probably be able to beat Nagato with the powers of the Rinnegan on his own, but at the same time, the 6 paths aren't just Nagato. So I feel like Killer Bee probably would lose the 6 paths, but then when the Raikage steps in, that's a different story. This might be a bit of a hot take, but I believe if Jin Cloak Naruto fought against the Raikage, and the Raikage genuinely tried to stop Naruto from going to the 4th Great Shinobi World War battlefield, Naruto would not be able to get past. In fact, I feel like if they fought to the death, Naruto might not make it out of that. And that's in Jin Cloak. Now, there have been debates on whether or not Sage Mode is stronger than Jin Cloak or not, but at the same time, I feel like the easiest way to solve that argument is by saying that Naruto, after achieving the Jin Cloak and being able to sense everything going on, did not revert to Sage Mode when getting into fights. Now, I guess he kind of did when he made a Shadow Clone, and then that was in Sage Mode, but that was because if he used the Jin Cloak while making Shadow Clones, he would die. Killer Bee even told him this, so I'm going to say that Naruto in Jin Cloak is at least relative to Sage Mode Naruto, and so if Sage Naruto was fighting against the 6 Paths of Pain and did a pretty good job, but then Jin Cloak Naruto is about that same strength, and the Raikage is about as strong as Jin Cloak Naruto, in my opinion, probably a bit stronger, then I feel like it's reasonable to say the Raikage would do pretty good against the Paths of Pain. Especially with the help of Killer Bee, well, the Paths of Pain would be in a lot of pain. Well, kind of. I'm not sure if they feel pain, and I'm not sure how many times I can use that wordplay. The point is, then Nagato would be tracked down, and the Rinnegan would be taken out of Nagato's face. Now, what would happen with them is a bit debatable. Honestly, I feel like if Konan isn't able to escape with them, which she probably wouldn't, I actually feel like she'd be a prisoner to Kimogakure, or, again, the village hidden in the clouds. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. Point is, Konan would probably become a prisoner, and then the Rinnegan would be taken. So, who they would go to or what would be done with them is, quite frankly, unknown, but I feel like they'd be given to Killer Bee, seeing as he has a large enough chakra pool along with the 8 tails to be able to use them. And I feel like making the target of the Akatsuki the strongest possible version of himself he can be would probably be the Cloud's main focus. It's not like this is a permanent change either. They could take them out after a while, but right now this is probably the best course of action. It's at least what I would do. Now, feel free to say this wouldn't happen and they would just choose to put them in storage somewhere, but this is how I see it going, and so that's what I'm going to go with. No matter what happens with the Rinnegan, though, the Raikage would still hold a 5-Kage summit discussing the threat of the Akatsuki, wherein he would be informed, with the leader of the Akatsuki gone, there is no more Akatsuki. Kakuzu and Hidan were already taken out by the 4th Hokage, Minato Namikaze. The other 2 only members, outside of Pain of course, were Deidara and Sasori, and they were also taken out. I don't see the rest of the Akatsuki actually being a part of the Akatsuki. Kisame wouldn't, Itachi wouldn't, Obito wouldn't, and granted, Konan was still part of the Akatsuki, but she's currently in a cell in Kimogakure. So, really, there is no more Akatsuki. But the Fourth Great Shinobi World War would still happen, as now Kabuto is being controlled and manipulated by Black Zetsu. Instead of the Eye of the Moon plan, Kabuto would just be told that everything he's ever wanted, everything he's ever dreamed of can be his if he has the Rinnegan and is the Ten Tails Jinchuriki. With basically infinite power, he can do whatever he wants. He'd basically be the new Sage of Six Paths, and nobody could stop him. And with his Dragon Sage mode, collecting the tailed beast would be like taking candy from children. And so Kabuto, after perfecting his Dragon Sage mode, would then use the Edo Tensei to create an unstoppable undead army to fight for him. Well, this is only a distraction for him to go collect the rest of the tailed beasts, feeding them to the Gedo statue. Seeing as Kabuto would be much more active here, they wouldn't actually know he's the person using Edo Tensei. Instead, I probably see Kabuto, if he needs to be sat down doing something for the Edo Tensei to work, just creating a shadow clone to do it for him. That way he can go out and collect the rest of the tailed beasts with no problem. Then Kabuto would go and collect the rest of the tailed beasts. Killer Bee with the Rinnegan is a very formidable foe, don't get me wrong, but Kabuto with Madara and Hashirama by his side is arguably way more formidable, seeing as Kabuto would definitely have the actual DNA of Madara and Hashirama, and thus could just revive them. They were never sealed away, and so there's no need to go and grab the Shinigami and rip its stomach open or whatever. No, Kabuto could just revive them normally, and he wouldn't have the same botched Edo Tensei that Orochimaru had. Instead, he would have the first, second, and possibly even third Hokage if Hiruzen has died by his side. And I mean prime Hiruzen. You think Kabuto wouldn't use that time to actually make sure all of his Edo Tensei are at the peak power? No, I'm pretty sure he would. So he has prime Hiruzen, Tobirama, Hashirama, Madara, and any other people he decides to bring along with him, as well as his Dragon Sage mode self, to fight against Killer Bee. It's safe to say, the Eight Tails and the Rinnegan would then be his. Gyuki would then be fed to the Gedo statue, and the Rinnegan would then be implanted into Kabuto. Granted, I believe that Madara and Hashirama would also have their Six Paths powers, as Kabuto just has to mix their DNA a bit, and then they both have Six Paths chakra, and Hashirama now has Six Paths Sage mode, and Madara has the Rinnegan, which is insane, but definitely feasible. And so Kabuto now just has to go to Konoha and grab the Nine Tails out of Kushina, which he could very easily do, then feeding it to the Gedo statue, and he has all of the tailed beasts. Kabuto would then revive the Ten Tails and take it into himself, then absorbing the Divine Tree as well. He would then awaken a third Rinnegan on his forehead, except this one is a Rinne Sharingan. Now he wouldn't cast Infinite Tsukunomi since he wouldn't know that exists and has no reason to do that. But he would kill Black Zetsu. Kabuto knows when he's being manipulated, and he doesn't like being anyone's puppet. And so Black Zetsu is killed on the spot before he can revive Kaguya. So now Kabuto, being basically all-powerful, would declare himself the ruler of the world. And considering the fact that Hashirama and Madara have Six Paths powers such as Six Paths Sage mode and dual Rinnegan for each of them respectfully, I doubt Kabuto has anybody that could really stand up to him. Or that's what I would be saying if Konoha was the same as it was in the original series. But no, it's far more powerful. Minato would be able to take on Tobirama and probably also Hiruzen on his own, and then Itachi and Sasuke could take on Madara, and if you really need to, you could add Shisui in there too. Naruto and Obito working together could probably take on Hashirama, but let's throw Sakura in there for good measure. And then, who fights against Kabuto? Well, the star of this what if. So let's talk about KCM2 close-ranged Kamui, Kakashi, with years of training and experience backing him up, versus the newly Ten Tails Jinchuriki dual Rinnegan Rinne Sharingan Kabuto. who probably doesn't even know how to use all of his Rinnegan abilities yet. Well, I'm gonna have to give this fight to Kakashi, and let me explain why. Kakashi is not a very powerful person, speaking purely of offensive capabilities, and he also doesn't have a very large chakra pool. Without giving him any hacks, he really isn't that effective, or at least he wouldn't be if he wasn't one of the smartest characters in the entire series and had some of the best chakra control ever, seeing as Kakashi is able to use some very high-level jutsu without draining his chakra too fast, despite him having a very low amount of chakra. The reason we see Kakashi being able to do insanely powerful attacks despite not having much chakra is because of how good he is at chakra control, and the fact that most of the time when he does use these kind of attacks, they kill, is because he has very good accuracy, and he knows when to attack and when not to, when somebody is left open for an attack, and when they would not be very susceptible to said attack. And so, he is very good at fighting, not because he's strong, but because he's very smart and very skilled. But then, you give Kakashi the attack potency of someone with KCM2, as well as giving him the ability to not be hit at all because of Kamui, and I don't even think Ten Tails Madara could beat him, let alone Ten Tails Kabuto. But I'm not just going to explain to you that Naruto, Sasuke, Obito, Kakashi, and the rest would be able to beat this foe. Instead, I'm going to tell you how the battle would actually go down. Kabuto would go to the Valley of the End, and he would use his Rinnegan to tear apart the statues of Madara and Hashirama, and instead combine them into a giant dragon-like golem, which he would then fuel with the power of the 10 Tails, as well as his own chakra, to then make an unstoppable giant mech he would use to tear apart anybody that comes his way, as well as having Hashirama with 6-pass Sage Mode and a Rinnegan Perfect Susanoo Madara by his side. Kabuto seems unstoppable. As waves of shinobi would flood into the Valley of the End, this being the Shinobi Alliance, at the head of the army is an Ashura-like avatar controlled by Kakashi. He is using nearly the entire power of the Nine Tails, most of which had also been gifted to him by Kushina. Kushina would have taken, let's say, 3/4 of the chakra she had inside of her from the Nine Tails and given it to Kakashi. Enough to where she is still able to survive, but it's also enough to where Kakashi is able to use nearly the entire power of the Nine Tails. But what's more terrifying than the Ashura avatar is the fact that it is standing side by side with a giant wood golem, the two of them having their hands linked before separating, with both of which being covered in a bright blue aura of armor. Yes, Kakashi and Obito are each using their own Susanoo. These two would then get into a deadlock with Kabuto, as they would begin to have this battle rage on. Naruto and Sasuke would fight against Hashirama and Madara respectively. And although Naruto and Sasuke are incredibly powerful, and honestly probably stronger than they were in the Kaguya fight at this point, they don't stand a chance against 6 paths powered Hashirama and Madara. And so Naruto and Sasuke would end up dying here. Although, after being approached by Hagoromo himself and given their own 6th path buffs, they would actually be able to overpower Hashirama and Madara by combining their powers together, Sasuke wrapping his own perfect Susanoo around Naruto's Ashura avatar. Naruto has his own, except this one is more like the one Ashura used. Kakashi's is more like a 4-armed Nine Tails. Although Hashirama would summon his own wood golem, or 1,000-armed Kanon, and Madara would wrap his Susanoo around it, it's simply not strong enough to deal with Naruto and Sasuke here. And so Hashirama and Madara would pass on to the Pure Lands, as Naruto and Sasuke are worn out but still very much alive. They won. Now, the only thing left to do is hope and pray that Obito and Kakashi can do the same. As Kabuto would prepare a 10-tailed Snake Sage Mode infused tailed beast bomb, Kakashi and Obito would look on with almost fear. They're not sure if they can counter this kind of power. But then Obito would look at Kakashi, saying, "It's been a good run," before stepping out of the Susanoo, looking on with determination in his eyes. Kabuto would launch the attack, but then Obito would use his eye to warp away the giant-tailed beast bomb. His eyes would be bleeding profusely, and almost all of his chakra is drained. Kabuto is surprised that Obito actually was able to do this, but then he'd begin to laugh, realizing Obito on his own couldn't survive warping away something that powerful. And then, as he's laughing, Kakashi would stab him using one of the arms of his Ashura avatar, which he would have coated in a Chidori. Stabbing it straight into Kabuto's chest, he would then rip out the Ten-Tails chakra and put it into himself, becoming the new Ten-Tails Jinchuriki. And then he would wipe away Kabuto almost as if he was a smudge on a window. He would then float down to Obito, who would tell him,
Now is my time, Kakashi. I can't keep going. If we're being honest, I should have died at Kanapi Bridge. But I'm so glad I got to spend these years with you, and got to see those kids grow into the incredible people they've become. They're so worthy of being called heroes of Konoha. And I'm hoping I am too. I'll see you in the next plane, my friend. But hey, would you mind giving me and Ren some time to catch up? I'll see you later, Kakashi.
Obito would then pass with a smile on his face, purposely leaving one of his eyes open, signifying to Kakashi, "It's okay. This is my last gift to you," as Kakashi would then transplant his own eye with Obito's Kamui. But before doing this, he would take in one of Kabuto's Rinnegan, and then used Rinne Rebirth to revive everyone killed by Kabuto in the past few days. Normally, this would kill Kakashi, since it's so many people and this would be so much chakra, but seeing as Kakashi is the Ten-Tails Jinchuriki, as well as having insane chakra control, if anyone would be able to do this and survive, I'm going to assume it'd be this version of Kakashi. And I also don't want to kill off Kakashi. I just had a really fun hour-long story with him, so cut me some slack. He's staying alive. Kakashi would then remain as the Ten-Tails Jinchuriki, as well as the Jinchuriki of 3/4 of Kurama. And then, for many, many years, Kakashi would look over the earth kind of like Hagoromo. Although, when it comes to the era of Boruto, he would mostly let the new generation take hold, and stay out of the fold. Nice little rhyme I made there. And then Kakashi, well, I probably see him only intervening when it is very apparent that the new generation cannot, such as with Ishiki and maybe even the likes of Momoshiki, since he was an incredibly powerful person, likely nearly as strong as even Kabuto himself in this What If. Sadly though, this is where our story ends. It took me forever to make, and I had a lot of fun doing it. Although my computer's about to die when I try and download this thing, so wish me luck. Anyway, this is, always has been, and always will be the Irishman. Talk to you later. Bye.